about normal pacing of the week, but it is still Friday, and people say finally because it's the end of the week, and most folks, I guess, still get weekends off from work, and we're getting all excited and stuff. I'm in a little bit late, but I'm getting a little bit better, right? I think I'm reverting back to the original days when we were doing this, and I was just always late. I think this week, it's been specifically this week, it's been madness. So many things happening, and so many other things going on as I still try and make sure I finish up what I'm trying to do to set up here. Um, it is a crazed week, and I'm glad you guys are here. What we've got today is more madness. I had to jam pack all of it in. I'm a little bit too excited about all the things that we're here to talk about. I might be here a little bit longer. Even if I started 4 minutes ago, I do feel like we still might be here a little bit longer. And you know what? I get the feeling as we get to the back end of all these stories that may take us a little bit over on a Friday. Apologies again to the damage report. If that does happen, the only reason I hope that you guys will see the gems that I've cooked up for you guys to discuss, for me to rant and rave about. But in order to make that happen, let's go ahead and make this natural and normal. Get your drinks out. I'm sorry, I'm back on them. Maybe. We go with the purple Nas today. Usually it's the traditional blues. There it goes. If you guys are suddenly some Nas drinkers, please let me know. And also, wherever you can contact Nas Energy Drinks, let them know too. Toss me a couple dollars here and there. And so there was one viewer that said that they started drinking a Nas and had never thought about it until they were watching this stream. It was a Nas Zero that he was drinking though, which kind of doesn't count. It's like zero what? Not caffeine or whatever the hell else is in this thing. This complex XC6, who knows? I literally just got through running around the house before I jump back in here to make sure that I am somewhat on time, and I have to lower down my heart rate. We have to be able to present this cleanly and clearly because there's a lot. There's so much. So let's go ahead and get this whole thing started. Let me see, where are we going to start from? Just a quick starter. Sometimes I do these on Mondays, the best damn day of the week, but also sometimes I do them on Fridays, but really it should happen whenever I see something that's quick to the point and sometimes so absolutely ridiculous that I have to bring it up and talk about it. I think today is one of those days when it's very appropriate for us to do just that. There was a cabinet meeting yesterday. There was another meeting with a bunch of folks standing around and behind Donald Trump because, he craves the ass kissing of everyone around him. But in this particular case, he caught a glimpse of one of his cabinet members' wives, Doug Bergum's wife. Doug Bergum is the Secretary of the Interior, I believe. He doesn't do anything but kiss Donald Trump's ass like the rest of them. You see all these folks in this still here laughing about absolutely nothing that Donald Trump was saying. But this kind of caught some people's eyes and ears, and they thought, what?
I saw them riding horses in a video, and they said, who is that? I was talking about her, not him. And they explained it. I said, I'm going to hire him because anybody has somebody like you to be with. It's an amazing tribute, and it's a great couple, amazing couple. I saw them.
You skeevy son bitch. Donald Trump was just eyeing and ogling Doug Bergum's wife. That is when she was standing there doing some kind of event for Donald Trump while he sits in front of them like he's some kind of king. But oh man, I saw you riding the horse. Oof. And when I was thinking about hiring Doug Bergum, who was apparently on the short list also to be vice president running mate for Donald Trump, he thought, ooh, but Doug Bergum's wife, if I can get her around here every once in a while, I'll hire him just for that specific case of getting her ass around me so I can ogle her. Disgusting some bitch. There's the thing though. She was there for actually something, and she read a little bit of what is it she was there to talk about. And you won't be surprised to see the look on Donald Trump's face as he wanted nothing to do with what she was talking about and a lot more to do with what she looked like.
To community. And when we treat it like a lifelong condition, that the condition that it is, we stop that cycle. We save lives, we restore families, we rebuild communities, we return people to dignity, purpose, and productivity. Mr. President, thank you for seeing this moment clearly With your leadership and the Great American Recovery Initiative, we're establishing a new framework and a new national response to the disease of addiction, including treatment and care that parallels other chronic diseases. With this framework and treatment, recovery is not the exception, it is the expectation to community.
Did you see Donald Trump passing out while she was talking about whatever it is that she's an expert in? Maybe she has some kind of a degree. Maybe she's a professional in the field. Instead, Donald Trump was passing out and falling asleep because he couldn't see behind her so he could, look at her a little bit more and check her out. Instead, he was falling asleep. There's another instance of people catching him falling asleep when there's these public meetings. And as his eyes drop, his head gets to bobbing around. Every time that happens, he doesn't say much. But this time, he came out and talked about how boring everything was. That is, until he caught a glimpse of Doug Bergum's wife. That's the guy who's the president of the United States, has zero no cover for the way that he acts, despite all the accusations about his sexual assault, sexual abuse, convictions for those things, more accusations behind it. No matter everything we've seen and heard, they continue down this weird line as if he's not the guy who also was revealed in these interactions with he and Jeffrey Epstein about how he likes to sleep with his friends' wives to maybe show a little bit of, dominance over his stupid cuck friends. So speaking of that, I feel like conservatives, especially consistently MAGA conservatives, like to talk about cucks all the time and how everyone that is their opponent is a cuck. But the weird thing is Doug Bergum, that same guy who just got embarrassed in front of, the country with his wife standing there while the president ogled her. This is the way he's always talked about Donald Trump.
President Trump, he's against the killing. He is the king of peace. He is the peacemaker. And whether it's stopping the killing in Iran, whether it's saving the protesters that are there on the front lines, whether it's stopping the killing of soldiers in the Iranian Russia war, or whether it's stopping the killing of Americans because of the drugs coming in our country, Venezuela, this guy is the king of peace, and he's going to keep pushing American strength to make sure that we achieve that.
All right, Secretary.
Look at his weird smile on his face at the end. He's going to achieve that. He's my king of peace. And then he went back home to his wife, and she probably wondered, why are you dropping to a knee so fast to kiss this guy's ass? So she showed up probably to check it out for herself, and instead she got checked out by the president of the United States. It's one of the multiple times that this guy gets himself in front of a microphone or in an interview and just kisses Trump's ass over and over again.
But I think there's a great opportunity here. I think President Trump, the greatest deal maker in the world, world leaders meet him. They like him. He's never met the premier of Greenland before. They'll be interesting to see how these talks go today. Keep that conversation going. But from a strategic standpoint, from a national security standpoint, President Trump 100% correct with what's going on with Russia in the Arctic, what China, their influence up there, China building weather stations in Greenland. These aren't weather stations. This is about North American and European security. If you look at that map from the top of the world down, Greenland plays a critical role in protecting both North America and Europe from incursion from Asia. And President Trump's absolutely right. That needs to be in control of someone who's even stronger than NATO. That's the United States of America.
Yeah, so because of where it is, right? So close to Russia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Meanwhile, back.
There's that weird smile again from Doug Bergum. So those are previous instances where he's on TV making himself look like a fool. But before then, as we saw just yesterday, Donald Trump finished and completed that entire process. I always ask this: when these guys go home to kiss Donald Trump's ass to this degree, do their families, do their wives, do their kids, do they then say, "Man, like that was a little bit over the top, Dad"? Honey, did you really have to did you have to make that weird smile at the end, like you're happy about how you're kissing his ass? Because we know it's your job and you're going to get fired if you don't. But do you have to be so joyous about it? I wonder what the conversation was after she got home yesterday, and she wondered, why didn't you stand up for me? If we're out and someone starts ogling me, maybe even groping me, like the president probably did off camera, I mean, are you going to do anything about it, Doug? And he just went. That's always his answer to these things. What a weird person that guy is. What a group of weak, extraordinarily weak people. They're being led by Donald Trump, who's also extraordinarily weak-minded, weak in his body and his soul. He's just an evil, weak piece of shit. But these guys can't help but to worship him. Doug Bergum and Donald Trump, that's his king of peace. Ew. Okay, I'm done with that. It's really, isn't that weird? It's weird, bro. It's weird. But I mean, to each their own. Maybe it's some kind of an arrangement of a marriage where it's just there for convenience and professional purposes. And now that they got themselves somewhat near the White House and Donald Trump, who cares that he disrespects your wife like that and says he saw her horse riding and he likes the way she bounces on a horse and therefore he hired your ass strictly because of your wife's looks? You weirdo. Okay. Okay. Jeez. Let's move on. There's so many. I keep stopping because there's so many things I'm stopping myself from saying. So I'm not going to say them. Let's just go on to some of the more political news of the day. Actually, not even political news of the day. Let's move on to things that are happening in our world that are human news of the day, human violations news of the day, and actually disrupting children's lives from the same guy who just got through ogling Doug Bergum's wife in front of the entire country and then telling her how hot she was. And that's the reasons why that he hired her husband. Ooh. I'm done with it. I promise. Now I'm done. I'm no more. So let's move on to this. The country has been, well, these folks who care in the country have been gripped by this image of one Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old boy who was taken in Minnesota and thrown in the back of an unmarked ICE car and then taken to a facility down in Texas, along with his father. CBS News, the mornings, they had a report where they talked to the principal of the school where that little boy goes, and no longer goes because he's in prison, a detention center, probably even worse. Let's watch this. This is heartbreaking stuff.
In an elementary school of about 574 students, administrators say some 24 families have had parents detained under Operation Metro Surge. But it was this image of one of their pre-K students, 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos, that went viral. He and his father, Adrian, were detained in their driveway last week and later transferred to a detention center in Dilley, Texas. Wednesday, Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro visited them and called us afterwards.
Could you give us an update? That is so amazing.
His dad did say that he's been depressed and hasn't been eating especially well. But, you know, I was very firm about demanding his release, and so we'll keep pushing.
Knowing that he has an advocate down there, too. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Though Liam was asleep, his dad promised to pass along a message his teacher and classmates sent him.
We love you!
A show of strength as they save Liam's place.
And to see the cubby here.
Yeah.
And another hat with the ears. I'm just looking at it.
Yep. And like I said, his stuff's not going anywhere.
What would you tell people who are watching this from somewhere else and thinking ICE is doing its job?
Open your eyes. Believe your eyes. Believe what you see. He's not a criminal. It's not politics. It's about treating people like humans.
The principal of the 5-year-old boy, Liam Ramos, who was abducted by ICE a week or two ago, has to somehow plead on TV to ask people to find their humanity and not call the 5-year-old child a criminal. This is the country that we're living in now. They continued on with this report because there's more things that this school and this staff is doing as their school has been disrupted, as many parents aren't showing up with their children anymore because they're afraid of, you know, the gang that's in town that's abducting and harming and abusing people and taking them to other states. Here's
People
more.
are not going to work.
No.
They're not leaving the house to buy groceries.
Correct.
So that's where this is all headed.
Yep.
At Columbia Heights Public School in Minnesota, staff are working second shifts to deliver.
How much of this need that you are supplying with this food has to do with the ICE operations?
A majority of it. Just last Friday, I delivered food and they followed me around out of the trailer park that I was delivering to. And so we've had discussions with our chief of police to say, are we putting a target on our families? And he goes, well, it's
By
probably,
going and delivering.
yes, but he goes, it's probably safer for you to go in and deliver food than for them to go out.
The school is delivering food to many of the families that are afraid to leave their houses. Let's stop for a second. And as we keep seeing all these instances, these obvious examples of throwbacks to Nazi Germany and how they raided people's homes, how people were hiding out in their homes as people banged on doors with guns out and in Nazi regalia as they came in to take people's children away. It's happening right now. Can we stop with all of the soft peddling and the, oh, let's please not call them Nazis? By the way, just calling them Nazis is enough. The whole point of calling them Nazis is so we can begin to treat them like the Nazis that they are. That's the first step. We need to identify the problem. And after you identify the problem, you take care of that problem. But we got too many people that are too busy trying to be nice and kind to Nazis who are kidnapping children and taking them off to other detention centers in other states at 5 years old, and then also terrifying the rest of the community of other folks who would send their children to that same school. They hang out at schools now. Again, these are the normalization of the way that Nazis are behaving. So, Joaquin Castro, a Democrat in Congress, went down to that detention center in Dilley, Texas. I mean, he is a Texas congressman, so he went to Dilley to check it out. I'm not sure how they got access to it because they never allow Congress people to get access to these torture facilities, but he did, and he got a chance to see Liam and his father.
You can see from the picture that I posted that he was lying in his father's arms. His father said that Liam has been very depressed since he's been at Dilley, that he hasn't been eating well. I was concerned with, you see how he appears in that photo with his energy. He seemed lethargic.
Congressman Joaquin Castro met with 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos and his father Adrian during a visit inside the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, Texas. For more than 3 hours, the congressman says he met not only with Liam's family, but also with hundreds of other detainees. Castro said Liam has been asking about his family and his classmates back in Minnesota.
He said that he misses his classmates and his family and wants to be back at school. And he keeps asking about that hat and that backpack that are in the picture.
You can see from the picture that I...
The depressed 5-year-old child who's probably not eating much and is asking for his mother and also his blue hat and backpack, probably two of his favorite things, as well as how much he misses his friend at school. These details that are still being argued on the internet, in dark corners of the internet, is one of the main reasons why you shouldn't argue with Nazis, because Nazis are doing what they want. Nazis are enjoying the torture and abduction of 5-year-old children who are now depressed and not eating in detention facilities that are disgusting and are there to torture them. So what could you possibly get from a discussion with a Nazi who's doing Nazi shit? What is it that could possibly come from that? Would they go, oh, I didn't realize that once we abduct children and put them in detention facilities and make sure that they're depressed, I didn't realize that once that happens, that we'd feel bad about it. That's what they want. There's no discussions being had. There's no reason to have these discussions. It's who they are. Jasmine Crockett went down there too. She's also a Texas congresswoman.
We all saw that photo of you meeting young Liam. Can you tell us about how he's doing and what that experience was like today?
It's almost indescribable, which I don't think that anyone ever imagines that I'm at a loss for words. Mm-hmm. He attempted to kind of interact with him. Like I was like trying to touch him, he was so lethargic. He was never alert the entire time that we were there. I was very, very concerned about his health. His father indicated that he was not eating, that they had determined that he was depressed. They being those that are there at the facility, they do have some psychiatrists on hand, and that he just kept asking about his mom and when they were going to see his mom and when he was going to go to school. But the entire time that we were there, and we visited specifically with Liam for probably about 30 minutes talking to his dad, and he never moved. He was motionless.
He was awake, but motionless?
I don't know that he was awake. Like, if you look at those photos, like, we could see just a slim portion of the white of his eyes. He never opened his eyes. Like, that's exactly how he was the entire time. And he wasn't asleep. Like, I don't think anyone could sleep through that. I mean, like, his dad adjusted him a couple of times, but something was not right. That part I can tell you. And so one of my staffers that was with me is a fluent Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you need to ask about, like, the doctor, like, has he seen them? Like, when's the last time? Because I was looking at that baby, and I don't have kids, but, like, I would have imagined that he needed to see, like, have professional help. But his dad was like, he's just not been eating.
So multiple elected representatives down there observing the behavior and what seems to be the deteriorating health of this 5-year-old kid. And like I said, the Nazis are cheering for this. They get joy out of this. They think that he's subhuman and that he deserves to die. So they're going to slowly torture him and maybe hope that it happens and then cover it up. Let's not forget, as we hear numbers, we talked about the number of American citizens that have been arrested unlawfully, also detained unlawfully, and also the number of either documented or undocumented migrants in this country that have been abducted, taken to these facilities and mistreated, not giving medical care, put in disgusting conditions, and then end up like this. And many of them have died. So as we talk about the 2 American citizens that were murdered on video, what we haven't seen when there isn't video are so many others that are probably treated just like that, if not worse. That's why they're coming for people's cell phones and their recording devices, because they don't want you to know or see what's happening, because they might have to face some form of accountability. I'm surprised that they let them in there to see all this, because now that's going to cause even more of an uproar. Last little bit from Wkend Castro, because after he left that facility, he was back in the car, and you can tell how shaken he was after what is that he saw, what he experienced, and how devastating it is for a child to go through all of this. Let me get to that last bit. 1 second. I got the wrong one. So back in the car coming back from that Dilley detention center down in Texas, here's Wkend Castro.
I did have a chance to see Liam. We spent about 30 minutes with he and his dad. His dad said that that he hasn't been himself, that he's been sleeping a lot because he's been depressed and sad. You know, and so Liam actually was not awake during our visit. He was sleeping. His dad said that he's asked about his classmates and wants to get back to his school and with his family and with his community. And so I am concerned about his mental state. There were a lot of parents there who talked about their kids experiencing deep depression, anxiety, people losing weight, both because of the bad food, but also because of their mental state.
We don't even need the added music. We don't need the potential to pull at heartstrings. I feel like things like that are trying to get people to feel some kind of empathy that they just don't have. And if they don't have it, who cares about them? That's who they are. In fact, that's going to piss them off even more, because that's an attempt to reach for their humanity, which they have none of. But in that whole thing, you could see Wkend Castro talking about what he's experienced, and he had to leave the kid there because your normal natural instinct is to save someone, a child, a defenseless kid, from this situation. And I think that's one of those feelings that grows. Did you guys know that this also happened at that same detention facility where they're holding Liam Ramos and the rest of the folks that are there, which you'll also notice in this video, were upset about it. And there's children outside during this protest. Al Jazeera reporting some more truth that the rest of our media outlets maybe don't feel that they can. There's many things to cover, so I'll need to go on some rant about how we're not covering these things. But for those of you maybe couldn't see or just listening as you're doing something else, it was images, pictures of all of these detainees, these prisoners held in that same Dilley detention center down in Texas, protesting their conditions there, and also, by the way, that 5-year-old that they just threw in there, along with other children, which some looked about the same age as Liam, if not a little bit younger. But they had to make sure they tamped down all of that to make sure that these folks don't feel they have any rights, no humanity, and, as a matter of fact, to be held there at any point and treated any way that they choose to do that. So that was inside the facility where they were protesting their treatment, along with the treatment of these children there. What also was happening outside of it was like a war zone, because protesters showed up.
This ain't shit. This ain't shit. This ain't shit.